Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you're all having a good day. In today's episode, we are moving out, although technically I guess we're not. I'm planning on starting a new base project. I've been talking about this for a while, gonna grab some wood so that we can take it out there, and I'm not planning on leaving this base behind entirely. We're probably going to go back and forth between the two, because when it comes to Minecraft, I don't tend to consider any one place my base if I have lots of different build projects going on around the world. If anything, this spawn area is going to be my base. We've built a storage system here, so we're definitely going to be back here for a bunch of resources, but I think it's time to go and start thinking about how we can leave our mark elsewhere in the world. And we know the location already. The place that I'm planning on heading out to is that Dripstone Cave north of the Savannah village that we've been working with. So in terms of what we're going to bring with us, I figured we're probably going to empty out a bunch of the stuff in the ender chest. We're going to use the shulker boxes that I brought back from the end, and we're actually going to start storing stuff in here that I think will be valuable to take over to this new base location. And once we're there, we're going to start working with some of the resources that are around us and figure out what the theme for the area is going to be. Because most of the time, when you start a new base in Minecraft, it's got to have some sort of theme. Like, are you building a rustic medieval town? Are you building a modern city? Are you building a ski resort somewhere in the distant tundra? Are you building, let's say, you know, a desert civilization? Are you building a Mars base in a mesa? There's so much stuff that you can do. And a theme like that is really helpful in figuring out what exactly you're going to build with, what materials you want to bring with you, all that kind of stuff. And in my case, I haven't thought super far ahead about what I want from this project, but I know it's going to be mining related because we're setting up in a dripstone cave, and so I'm bringing a bunch of materials with us that I think will look good in a mining situation. It's mostly going to be a lot of spruce wood. We're going to have a bunch of scaffolding around, and we'll figure out the rest kind of as we go. We're also going to bring a bunch of torches left over from my trip to the end because we need to light that area up, otherwise it's going to get scary very quickly. The other thing I want to bring for now is obsidian and a bunch of the blocks that we've used to decorate the outside of our nether portal here at spawn, because we're going to do the same thing at our new base location. Like I said, I want it to be like all geodes are effectively connected by nether portals, or all nether portals are created in geodes around this world. And we don't have a nether portal there yet, so to get there for the first time, we're going to go through our nether network. We'll end up over at the Savannah village, and we'll make a move north from there. Here it is, our new home away from home, and it's right on the edge of a jungle too, which is something that I keep forgetting about it. So maybe we could end up using some jungle wood, but honestly, I'm just excited to start building in this place instead of just talking about building in this place. I'm trying to figure out where I want the main entrance to be, and I think it's going to be around here, which leaves us with a couple of interesting considerations, because this is directly above a large lake. So what I'm thinking we're going to do is clear out a little bit of the terrain from around the entrance, just so we have something that's a little bit more obvious. This is the way in. We might have to move some of the trees out of the way if that's the case. And by right-clicking on some of these grass blocks and dirt blocks, we can make ourselves a dirt path up to the entrance. So it's going to be more obvious from a distance where the trail leading up to the entryway is going to be. And my inventory is immediately a chaotic mess again, so we're going to grab a shulker box to take care of that. We'll pack some of this stuff away. The amethyst stuff for all of the portals can go in here, and we'll leave the obsidian in there as well. Doesn't look like we have enough obsidian for a nether portal, does it? Well, we'll get to that in a second. And with all the foliage out of the way, honestly, this is looking a lot more grand. So I think a grand entrance deserves a grand entrance. We're going to make a large spruce platform leading out into this lake here, supported from beneath by pillars, probably made out of some more spruce logs. And that's going to be effectively a walkway that allows us to get in here, and then we'll maybe design some sort of cargo lift that takes us down to the floor of the cave. Of course, one thing at a time though, we've got to start building out this platform. And I think we'll border around the outside of this with some spruce logs, and maybe we'll put fences or something along the tops of those. We could have this whole thing one slab down, but I actually want this to feel quite solid to begin with. I think maybe along the edges here, we'll strip this set of logs, and then we'll have like a guardrail made out of full spruce logs. So we're not cheaping out on the materials in this build. It's going to be be a pretty expensive one, and it's going to justify all of that wood chopping I've been doing on my live streams lately. The cool thing is, choosing this spot as our entryway means that the dripstone above us is already going to be dangling down, and some of it is even dripping particles of water occasionally as we look up, which is really atmospheric. I'm thinking about the atmosphere of this place and the fact that this giant lake below us really should be visible in some way from the entrance. I don't want the entire thing to be cut off here, and so I'm gonna do this a couple of different ways. First of all, I think we're probably going to thin out this platform so it's only 5 blocks wide, and we'll have another platform going this way that's 5 blocks wide as well. We could even use this pillar here to make it look like it's either cutting through that or going around that as a support. So then as we enter through our main entrance here, we can look down on the lake below. It's going to look really cool from below looking up at this structure above, but I want to make sure that players can look down and really feel like, yeah, we are walking on a platform above a lake like this. So I might try and figure out a way of incorporating some more transparent blocks in here. Probably not glass, because that feels a little bit too modern, but maybe we'll put some oak trapdoors along the center here, and that will really give an impression that there is depth below us as we walk on these platforms. We got a bit of wood from the trees on the outside. Let's try that out. We'll remove a few blocks here, like so. Maybe we could just do this in 5-block long sections or something like that, and maybe not starting so close to our opening platform, but yeah, it at least gives the impression that there is a dark void below you. And now I'm wondering if maybe we offset that with some stairs and actually have the trapdoors embedded in the floor instead of level with the platform itself. Yeah, there we go. I like that. It gives some dimension to the floor and could almost create lanes of traffic so that people can walk along this side, and then if they're walking back, they walk along this side. I might not start it this close to the entrance, but I do like the way that works, and it does show us a bit of the lake below as we're walking around here. Of course, we're also going to consider what this looks like from below, and while I could be wearing my elytra and using fireworks to get back up here once I've taken a look from down below, I think what I'm going to do instead is a slightly cheaper solution. We're just going to leave a bucket of water here, and we can use this as a water elevator to get to and from the large pool down here. And I really like looking up at that and seeing the vines and stuff coming in from the jungle outside. We're going to have to do something underneath that with moss to make it look like the jungle has almost overgrown this area, and I am really paranoid about some stuff sneaking up on me in here because the dripstone columns are creating lots of dark spaces for mobs to spawn. But we can thicken up that platform a little bit. Yeah, there's Enderman watching me here as well. This whole place is making me feel very paranoid, but we can thicken up the platform underneath, give it a little bit more wooden support down there, and I want support pillars coming down into the water as well. That's going to mean finding the point over here at which this intersection happens, swimming on down, and starting to place some blocks so that we can pillar upwards. Naturally, that's going to mean a point at which we can have this row of logs along the side like we did over there, except with this one, I think we'll put fences and or fence gates along here instead of having a guardrail, because that way you can see out into the cavern with fewer restrictions instead of on this side where you can't really see over the log. We'll thicken this up here to give the impression that that is supported, and we'll probably add in a couple more kind of support structures underneath here. Maybe we can make a temporary platform down there and use scaffolding to get all the way up here. The way I see this going right now, that platform is going to continue at the level that it does because it sort of bridges out to this section of the cave over here where there's some flat ground, or at least an area of the cave that we could flatten out. This one is going to come along here. It might go down a couple of steps here and there to line up with areas of the outside where these gaps have been carved by world generation, and there we can have a couple of smaller entrances, maybe some areas where personnel can go in and out, because I'm imagining this being a pretty large mining operation. But that's a vision that's going to take place over multiple episodes. This is going to be a longer term project, and it's something that we can sink our teeth into on streams and on videos for the next month or two, I'd expect. And I immediately know what I'm going back for when I return to my base, and it's lanterns, because skeletons and zombies ended up spawning on the end of the platform that I've just built here out into the darkness, and I'll probably light it up with torches temporarily, but I think lanterns are going to make a lot of sense here, because this is going to be a mining area, but it's not going to be a modern one. It's going to be a lot more of that kind of gas lamp era, sort of Victorian style stuff, or maybe even go towards the fantasy realm and end up feeling a little bit more dwarven. Either way, lanterns are a really great fit and will provide some decent lighting in this place. Redstone lamps wouldn't look too bad either, but they need to be powered from someplace, whereas I think we can even have like street lamps after a fashion over here in this walkway. We could have some sort of street lamp in the center with lanterns dangling down on either side. But since mobs will need complete darkness to spawn, we could be quite sparing with those so as to preserve the atmosphere of this kind of place. I think right here is where this platform is going to take its first step down. And so to set up some logs underneath this thing, because we're suspended up here right now, what I'm probably going to do is dangle some water over the side and use the water column to kind of drift down and suspend myself in the air. So that way we can start the next row of logs a step down. We'll probably put a stair or a slab or something in here so it looks like it connects the two logs. Using water as a kind of temporary scaffold like that is actually a really useful way of building something from the top down instead of from the ground up like we're having to do here. We can join the two walkways together with a row of slabs that provide a convenient step down. I'm thinking we might tidy up the ends of these logs with some spruce trapdoors. That way at least they hide the end texture of the logs. And once we figured out stuff like that looks good, it can just be a matter of repeating patterns like this whenever we want to take a step down. We're developing building motifs that we can use throughout the structures that we're going to build inside of this cavern. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. It's taking a while to just lay out these platforms, but I think it's headed in the right direction. I mean, it's headed that way and this way, but this way is where we're going to put our nether portal. I think we're going to maybe embed it in the wall over here as though there is a large standing amethyst geode, and not a rounded one this time. I think we're going to do something a bit different with that. First of all, though, we have a bit of this stuff to clear out of the way, and I realize we haven't really talked much about dripstone itself. Dripstone generates in caves like this and occasionally in formations that you'll find in patches in other caves in underwater areas, and largely speaking, though, you'll find it in huge quantities in biomes like this. There are two types of dripstone, as you'll notice. There are the pointed dripstone, stalactites and stalagmites. Let me know in the comments if you can tell which is which. And there are blocks of dripstone, which typically form into larger pillars like this and then coat the floor and the ceiling where the pointed dripstone forms. You don't have a great deal to worry about with the stalagmites, although if you fall on any of the pointed dripstone from above, it does cause you a little bit of damage regardless of the height you fall from. So even jumping up and down on one of the smaller points will cause you to take a bit of damage. It basically amplifies the damage that you take if you fall from a greater height. So if I fall from up here onto one of these, for example, I took a bit of damage even though I'm wearing full protection armor, some of which is netherite. Where we really need to worry though is the stalactites, because if we break the topmost block where it's connected to the block above, then the rest of it falls, and it can cause massive damage to whatever is below it. Now, the good news is that typically won't happen without a player breaking the stalactites in the first place, and it'll typically just shatter harmlessly onto the floor where you can pick the pointed dripstone up. You can, of course, place it somewhere else, and you don't have to place it on a dripstone block, so we'll find it generating on those blocks, but we can move it around and do more interesting stuff with it. You can even create your own stalactites by hanging them from the underside of a block if you want to, although once again you have to be careful about taking them down. The only other thing that can take these down is if the blocks are destroyed by something like a creeper explosion, a TNT blast or something like that, or if a drowned throws a trident and the trident happens to hit one of these blocks, the impact will be heavy enough that it will disconnect the blocks, they will break, and they will fall. Even then, you'd have to be pretty unlucky to be standing directly below the stalactite when it happened, but more embarrassing deaths have happened to me in Minecraft before, so I'm fairly certain that it's going to happen at some point. We're going to keep an eye on the lake below us because drowned have already been spawning down there. As I mentioned in the Amethyst Geode episode, you'll find them spawning below sea level in oceans and in completely dark areas in rivers and dripstone caves. Now we've got hold of some of the pointed dripstone, it's worth noting this has a crafting recipe. You can create dripstone blocks using pointed dripstone. So we'll gather up some of this stuff for our own building purposes. There's tons of it around. You won't really need to craft it, but if you are low on dripstone, there is a way of farming this. And it's all to do with the mechanics of the water dripping from the dripstone. But we'll dedicate an entire episode to that, probably tomorrow, because right now I just want to do a bit more base building. And here's what I'm thinking. We actually want to have a nice large nether portal around here, because we don't have to always build the nether portals in a kind of 2 wide, 3 high formation. We can build them a little bit bigger, and around that we're going to have a geode that looks like it's been sliced off of a differently shaped rock, something that doesn't feel quite as circular as the amethyst geodes we are used to. And I mentioned earlier that we didn't bring a great deal of obsidian with us, but one fun thing you can do with ender chests, now that we have a decent supply of those, is break them down using a non-silk touch pickaxe to get more obsidian. Since they'll break back down into 8 obsidian each, they're actually a neat way of transporting multiple stacks of obsidian in a single stack of inventory space, provided of course that you have access to the eyes of ender you need to craft multiple ender chests. And now that we have access to that central end island, we can get all the obsidian we want from the pillars that spawn as part of the dragon fight, so we'll be able to farm obsidian from that if we want to. For now, I think I'll break down one more ender chest into obsidian. We'll keep this one around because we'll definitely need that to have access to our secondary inventory. And I think we'll set our nether portal a little bit further back here. And don't worry, we're going to find some cool stuff to fill in the rest of this space. But that's the kind of size I'm talking about. Yeah, we're making this one quite large. And of course, I didn't bring a flint and steel with me, so we'll have to do something about that in a second. My plan is to surround a little bit more of this nether portal with the amethyst blocks, because to be honest, we're only going to walk through the center of this. We don't need to worry too much about the space that we have here on the outside. And we'll build it up with more of these amethyst blocks so that it layers outwards a bit. And we'll need to farm a bunch more amethyst blocks, but the idea is that the portal is going to be inset into a large geode that's going to have a sheer face around the outside. So we're going to put in a layer of calcite around that and then a layer of smooth basalt around that. Okay, a thunderstorm is happening right now, and I gotta say, seeing the thunder and the light effect that it has on the inside of this cave, just looking out of the entrances, that's wild looking. I really like that a lot. I'm not sure if I want to have a layer of tuff around the outside or in between, but I think the smooth basalt is either going to go next to the calcite or it's going to go one block further out. And then, of course, on the inside of here, we're going to decorate it with the usual selection of amethyst clusters and buds, and it's going to make it look like this entire thing is growing around the nether portal. And it'll be nice and spiky in there to go with the theme of the dripstone biome. The dripstone's even going to be poking through the top of the geode there above the portal, and I might change that torch into something a little bit more permanent and fancy looking in a minute. But once the thunderstorm has gone away, and I need it to go away because I didn't bring a bed with me, we're going to head back to my base, grab a few more supplies, and then we'll return here to make a few more aesthetic touches. Okay, we're back, and I've got some good ideas. I had a bit of thinking to do whilst I was collecting all of that stuff, and I figured, what are the people who are mining here actually here for? It's probably not the dripstone, even though the dripstone is probably what I'm here for, because a massive supply of this is going to be cool to have as a building material amongst other things. But instead, I figured the people who've set up this mine in the fiction of the world here, and I do usually kind of have a story in mind, not necessarily a story that I want to play out in-game, but something that can shape the idea of what we're building and why we're building it. I figure people are here to mine copper, because there is an abundance of copper in Dripstone Caves. It's not the same thing as a huge ore vein where you're going to find a ton of copper reaching into the ground, but there's some granite around, so potentially there is a chance for some huge veins of copper to generate in this vicinity. And either way, pretty much everywhere you look, there's some over there, there's some on the floor down here, there's a little bit in some of the other pockets of the cave that I've taken a look around. You do find a lot more copper generating on the surface in Dripstone Caves. So I think it's going to be a cool idea if a lot of the surroundings are both made out of copper and are evidence that the people here are mining copper. So I think instead of having torches on a spruce log in the center here, what I'm actually going to do is set up maybe like a little copper lamp of sorts. Each of these central sections here can have this kind of plus shape of copper dangling down from it. We'll put slabs on these sides, and on either side here, we're going to put a lightning rod. From the lightning rod can hang a chain, and from the chains, we can hang our lanterns. And this isn't waxed copper, so it's going to age over time. We can bring some honeycomb and freeze it in whatever age we want it to be, and I think the copper goes kind of nicely with the dripstone aesthetic around here. We could have some of that age to maybe some of the later stages, but I think it's going to make sense to keep it stage 1 or stage 2, so original copper or exposed copper. We might even swap the fences in here, which are just made of oak for now, because that's what I had on me, for acacia fences, and that would make it look like they're made of copper too. Although they're not quite as shiny, they certainly have the same color palette in mind. Perhaps we even remove the chain from this one so that the lantern is hanging down like that, makes it feel a little bit more asymmetrical, which I think gives it a bit more character. Now for the outside of our geode here, I brought a variety of materials with me. I think we're going to add a layer of tuff around the outside beyond the smooth basalt and kind of transition it back into the stone that we see all around us, the natural stone of the cave, working in a bit of andesite along the way and also bringing in some diorite to mix in with the calcite around the outside. We don't often find too many uses for diorite, but I think the addition of calcite to the block palette has opened up areas where we can use diorite, especially when we're blending it with other materials. I also crafted a bunch more blocks of amethyst out of the shards that we had gathered, and it's really my first time making amethyst blocks instead of just pulling them out of a geode, so it's kind of nice to remind myself that I can do that now. We'll use those to fill in the frame that we've made here out of the calcite. Hey, the drowned that spawn in here even drop copper ingots. It all ties together. These people are mining copper. It makes a lot of sense now. So around the layer of calcite, we're going to add another layer of smooth basalt, a layer of tuff around that, and we'll finish that off by blending it in with a bit of natural stone and some andesite. And there we go. So it's like this enormous geode has had its side sheared off, and we're looking at the center of it. And maybe we could just have like a couple of remnants of the remains of the other half of it just kind of fallen down into here. Maybe the nether portal forming in here has caused that. Maybe the dripstone coming through here has cracked it over time. There's a lot of different excuses we can give to that, but this time I decided to stash a flint and steel in my ender chest so we can light our portal, and boy, does that look large. And we need a bunch of amethyst buds and clusters in here, all facing inwards like this, really selling the idea that this geode is a natural one. And the cool thing is, because the large clusters like that actually have a hitbox, we can walk on into the nether portal without having to jump up a step. It's like the amethyst clusters provide a bit of a staircase for us. I like that. I like that a lot. And we'll probably reshape the roof a little bit here to have more dripstone hanging down from it. It looks a little bare right now because I've had to move a couple of the dripstone stalactites from up there. And I think we're probably going to put some candles around as well, because I had a feeling that candles were going to make a lot of sense in this environment with lanterns and a little bit more of that old-timey kind of feel, while in reality it's not always super safe for miners to have open flames, and that's why lanterns kind of exist in the first place. I think candles make a lot of sense for lighting this area up, and it's going to be a nice way of preventing mob spawns while keeping the area feel a bit atmospheric. Now, with this whole area looking really nice, I need to put my gold helmet on and figure out where on earth this nether portal is going to end up, because we'll need to connect this to the nether hub after all. Okay, looks like we're still in the Crimson Forest, which makes sense because this whole area seems to be linked to the Crimson Forest pretty much. We've got a nice alcove here that we can tuck ourselves away in, and of course the portal that it creates in the nether is not going to be the same size as the one in the overworld. It always just creates the default smallest possible portal, 14 blocks with the corners. Can I see any of our other portals from here? Doesn't look like it. Okay, so we're probably going to have to dig through that way in order to get back towards some of the other tunnels we've made already, but I think it's going to be worth the effort. And coming on into the cave, I gotta say, this nether portal has one of the best views out of any of the nether portals we've created so far, because I immediately get to walk forward and take a look at this. The more I look at this, the more I think it needs acacia or maybe even jungle wood fences. We do have a bit of jungle wood, so we can always give that a try while we're here, but I think acacia is going to win out in this case. I don't know though, that's definitely better. It's got a bit of the pink highlight in it from jungle wood, so I think that's going to work out a little better. We might even figure out some kind of combination of the two, since this could be closer to the exposed copper and acacia wood is closer to regular shiny copper. We could even throw in some warped wood fences if we want one that's fully oxidized. There's a lot of potential for detailing some of that copper stuff, so I think we can make a good go of that. I do want to make these a little taller from time to time. I've made this one a block taller than the other one, just so I can take full advantage of the detail we can get out of using lightning rods and chains. And we'll see which side I end up favoring when I walk around on these platforms, but I think we're going to have the lanterns on the outside dangle down one block lower, so that we use the inside track here a little bit more than the outside. I need to bring some more lightning rods though, because it definitely misses them with the chains just being stuck on there. Oh, and if you stand back here, the dripstone formations, the actual dripstone blocks, form a nice archway that kind of frames the geode out perfectly. I didn't realize that. Standing all the way back here, you can really see that come to light. That's so cool. Gotta love those happy accidents. But folks, I think we're gonna leave it here for today. I've done a little bit of work here and it's taken longer than I expected to, but we have made the start on what is going to be our Dripstone Cave base. And a few of these more building-focused episodes will pop up from time to time, which aren't necessarily intended to be direct tutorials like follow this block for block, but hopefully will give you a bit more inspiration for what is possible in Minecraft and what you can try out in your own world. So that's going to be it from me for today, though. Thank you so much for watching. My name has been Pixlriffs. Please don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you folks soon. Take care. Bye for now.